Hey, what's up, guys? So this is another eBay unboxing, but I'm very nervous. The reason why I'm nervous is because this item is 182 years old. Now, I've done business with the same seller before. It's the same seller that I bought the filled 139-year-old perfume bottle from that had the original contents in the bottle. Now, this item is 182 years old, and they put it in a tiny little box, and I did ask them to stuff it so it doesn't lose its shape and to put it in a bigger box. And this item is actually bigger than the box, so I don't know what they did. I think they smashed it in here, and this item could be ruined now. So we're going to find out. This video is for documentation purposes, and I'm just hoping and praying that the item is not destroyed because it's very fragile and it can actually fall apart and disintegrate because of its age. And I'm trying not to let you guys see my address. Hold on, I'll cut the other side of the box. Oh boy. Now, I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, but this is not good. And I did even offer to pay extra shipping money to have... he smashed it. He smashed a 182-year-old item in a box. Let's just hope it's okay. This is not very good at all. It should never be smashed because fabric, yes, it's made out of fabric, especially this type of fabric will shatter. It's called shattering. And I've had a lot of antique textiles shatter from age. By even touching it, it just falls apart. And by smashing it into a small area, this is not good. All right, we'll have to see if this is okay. All right, this was made in 1841. So, and, oof. Both these items, 1841. Okay, I'm trying my best not to be worried. I'm going to actually put this in here to give it some shape. Okay, I think it's okay. Okay. I think it is okay. Let's actually take a look at this. And you can see this was hand beaded in 1841. Look at the beadwork on this. Let's get in there close. Now, one part of it is missing some beads right here, but the rest of it is still intact. Now, this was a hat that was made in between, I think it was like, right before the Victorian time frame. And what's this? I'm going to have to get that off. I'll be right back. Okay, so how is this worn? Well, I don't know because I didn't grow up in 1841, 182 years ago. And how do I know it's 1841? I'll show you in a moment. All right, so this looks... It appears to be taffeta. Taffeta, actually, thank goodness it's not silk, because silk is the worst fabric in, like, all of the world, because it just totally disintegrates over time. So this is how it would go. So it would go over the sides of the ears. Don't know if you can see that. Just like that, with the little bow. Look at that. See the little bow right there? And then... this is the back. This is where the bun would go. And wow, this is very small. This person had a very tiny head. So this would be on the back where the bun would be on the lady's head. This would go over the crown part of her head. This is the opening of the head. And like I said, this would go over the ears. And then you would tie this. Let's go ahead and tie this under the chin. And this is in actually phenomenal condition for its age. So I'm going to tie it gently because if you pull too hard, this will come off. And then we're going to get to the second part. Now, I tried to get a mannequin for it to display it. And I could not find a specific mannequin that would be perfect for the item. And I was going to get a mannequin for this too. But I realized something. Hold on, I'm just going to fix the ties on this. Let's go ahead and make the bow a little smaller, like it would have been back in the day. And I'm going to just poof this out. So you would go like that, pull it a little tight, like that. There we go. And you would just take the bow and away from the knot, like that, to poof it up. There we go, I believe. And there we go. We have our hat. That's actually really, really cool to have a 182-year-old hat. Look at that. All right, the next item. I'm not very happy that they folded it because now there's going to be folds in it. What happened was the seller had the perfume bottle, and I asked them if they had any other old items. And they contacted me with a photo of this set. And I offered them $25. They didn't know anything about antiques. And I offered them 25, and then they charged me $9 to ship this. So let's actually go move this over here gently. Okay. And this is actually extraordinarily, unbelievably amazing. All right, so let's check this out. I'm just going to pull the camera down a little. And these are actually, these type of gloves are known as, oh God, mitts. That's right. These are called mitts. These are gloves with opened hands. So a lady could actually do knitting. So she would sit, with the gloves on. Now, it was considered immodest. Some of their clothing styles, especially in the 1840s, were short sleeve dresses. So the dresses wouldn't cover the arms. There was like no sleeves. So they would have to wear long gloves, like close to their elbows or past their elbows to seem modest. If they showed their flesh, it was only, I believe, in the night, like if they were to go to a ball or formal wear, could they show just a little bit of flesh. And so these actually were modesty gloves. A lady never showed her hands. They would always have to have at least most of their hands covered, especially their palms and the tops of their hands. The fingers are okay because you need to knit, you need to do things with the fingertips. So that's why the fingers are open. Especially too, if she was fancy, she would actually want to wear rings and show her rings. And so the fingers being out would show her rings. And this is actually embroidered and it matches the hat. I don't know if you could see this. Let's go ahead and look how nicely. Now it looks very Nordic to me, doesn't it? Like Norwegian, maybe Dutch. I'm trying to think of other Norwegian countries. I really suck at geography. But if you know, write it in the comments below. It does, oh, my stomach is growling. It does look very like sort of Norwegian, although it was purchased in America. All right, that hat is amazing. We do have some staining. That's quite normal for something 182 years old. Now, I'm going to have to keep this in a trunk. I wanted to display it, but it's very, very bad to display clothing unless you have a climate-controlled house, like a museum, and you kept it away from dust and you kept it away from the sunlight. This is not good to actually display out. I'll tell you a little story, not that you give a rat's ass, but when I was a little girl, my mom went to an antique shop and she came back with a Victorian velvet cape with all sequins on it. And I loved this cape. This is what got me interested in antiques. I said, Mommy, what's that? It was a sealskin velvet cape. And my mom said, I found this at an antique shop. And right before she died, now she had this when I was a little kid. And right before she died, I said, where's that sealskin cape? The velvet one with the sequins. She says, you know what happened? I had it displayed and it just fell apart into a million pieces. And all the fabric disintegrated. And so that is why you don't leave fabrics out, even if you want to display them. So if you look at the hands, let's check this out. We're going to get in there close. Now, I thought this was embroidery. It turns out this is beading. This is even more spectacular than I thought. And it says DM, somebody's initials, 1841. This is all beadwork. Look at this. It almost reminds me of Native American beadwork. And so a lady actually made the matching hat and gloves. This is really sensational. Now, the colors, it's white. And you might be like, why white? Didn't they have different types of colors that would have been more in style or something more cheerier or more extravagant? Well, the lighter the color, the more pure the lady was. And it was something to do with debutantes. So a young debutante, a woman coming of age, would have generally wore white. And that's quite interesting. Now, I don't know why the hat is black, but that is actually very, very interesting. You see this? Look at this here. All right, so what I'm going to try to do is stuff the gloves. I wanted to stuff them with paper to see what they would look like because I tried to get an arm mannequin, and they were either too short, the arm part would only, like, say, come up to here, and then what do you do about this end? Or if you found a really long arm, you'd only find a pair of two right hands, you know what I mean? Or two left arms. And I need one left and one right. So how would I display this? I don't know. All right, I'm going to try to stuff it with some paper so we can give it some body and see more about this. And I'm going to have to put this in a cedar lined trunk. All right, so I stuffed them with tissue. Now, I used to work at a dry cleaner, and we used to stuff the clothes with tissues. But here we go. So the gloves, I started noticing things that I didn't notice when they were flat. And so if you look, damn, I'm a total eclipse of the freaking light. Every time I move, you see my shadow. I'm like a groundhog. What am I? What's the name of that groundhog? Puxasani Sam or some shit like that? Yep. All right, I'm trying to stay out of the shadows, but let's zoom in over here without my big fat ass hiding the light. And it says DM 1841. Now I couldn't stuff the thumbs; they were just too small, and so I stuffed it with acid-free tissue paper. And look at this beadwork. So we got these gold-colored steel-cut beads. Now, steel-cut beads were actually, they came out before they came out in America. They came out in Europe. So steel cut beads generally were actually popularized from the 1840s, which is quite interesting, in Europe. So I think this is European. Now look at this design here. Let's get a close up of these beads. These are gorgeous. They're like turquoise colored. Don't know if they're glass, but yeah, in the actually the steel cut beads were made before the 1840s in Europe, but they became very popular in the 1840s. And then they came to America, and the American steel cut beads were never, ever, ever good quality. The reasoning is because the type of metal they used to actually rust. And these do not look rusted for 100 and, what is it, 100, what did I say, 182 years? Look at that. Wow. That is the coolest thing ever. Okay, so we got a date. We got a sort of a name, DM. My first initial is a D. My husband's name is Mike. Deanna and Michael, 1841. And there we go. And oh, we got more. So look at all this beadwork going down the arm. Now these are made out of knit, some kind of knit material. Let's go ahead and check this out. So we got crosses or crucifixes. My husband thought they were plus signs. And I said, no, they got to be crosses. We got some ivy, like an ivy vine going down, with what appears to be crucifixes, and some more leaves and a vine. And somebody took a lot of effort to make these. There we go. There's the crosses. We have, here we go, the hat. Let's get a close-up. Look at the yellow beads, the green beads, the turquoise colored beads. We have this rick-rack. I call that rick-rack. Or rigmarole going on the bottom right here. And this is just absolutely stunning. I mean, absolutely amazing buy for only $25. Now, this belongs in a museum, in my opinion. But I don't want to give it away to a museum. The problem is with museums, hold on a second. The problem is with museums is they want you to give everything to them for free. And I don't give my stuff away for free. Here's the back of the hat. So here's the side view of the hat. So it would be like this on a lady's head. And hold on one second. Let's get in there tight. Look at that. Oh, and we got some like, almost like, what kind of flowers are that? Tulips? I really suck. Oh no, forget-me-nots. I think that's a forget-me-not. And oh, we got more flowers over here. The more I look at it, the more things I notice about it that I didn't notice before. Okay, so a lady would have wore it, I believe, like this. And this would be like the top forehead area, right? This would, of course, be the cutout for the face. We got the beautiful bow tie with little ribbons on both sides. I mean, little bows on both sides. Don't know if you can see that. Whoa. Okay, good aim. Oh, there we go. Yes, there's bows on both sides of this. So it would be this way, sideways. There we go. And then when she turns around, you would see this effect with the bun. So her hair would have been up in a bun, and you would have seen that. Let's check out the fashions of the 1840s. And, oh, my husband said something. He said, oh, he walked in the kitchen, and generally, he won't even comment on my antiques. And he saw this set, and he said, what did he say? Oh, I wrote it down, because I have no memory. Hold on. I got to find the paper. And he said, oh, yeah. See, I told you I have a terrible memory. Okay, I think I'm very nervous about that. All right. So he said, that looks very Scandinavian. And I said, Scandinavian? What countries are in Scandinavia? And he said, Norway, Finland, Sweden. And then he said, sometimes Holland. So I think he knows a little bit more about geography than I do. Don't know how I got 90s and hundreds in it. But I used to read really well and memorize and retain the information for only one day for test taking. And then I used to actually get 90s and hundreds on the test and then completely forget everything I learned the day after the test. So there we go. Let's check out the fashions of the 1840s and find out more about these fingerless gloves, or mitts as they call them. Now this is going to be a long video. All we're doing is we're just studying textiles. So a lot of you may find this not like my normal video, but this is fashion in time. And this is about gloves. Wow, look at these gauntlet gloves. By the way, you see these gauntlet gloves? These are like something that sometimes you see on knights and superheroes. And recently I read some article that the government, the US government, gave away like $200,000 to $400,000 to a college to actually study whether or not they can snap their fingers wearing a pair of metal gauntlet gloves. And I shit you not. That's where my tax money goes. And that's why I no longer work anymore, because I'm tired of giving my money away to bullshit. And so they found out, oh yeah, with the study that they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on with college students, that no, you cannot snap your fingers with metal gauntlet gloves. Okay, here we go. So most of them were kid leather. And we got, look at this beadwork. Very interesting. These are badass. I would really like to have a pair of these for my YouTube videos. And the history of gloves. And from the tomb of Tut, King Tut, I'm not going to say that word. Remains of gloves were found. Interesting. Why did women wear gloves? Women wore gloves as a protection from disease. Interesting. And to keep their hands soft and feminine. Soft hands were a sign that a woman came from a prosperous or upper class family, and gloves were the number one way to keep the hands soft and protected while out horse riding. Long gloves allowed women to hide the skin on their arms if they had a short sleeve on their top, which enabled them to cover up and maintain their modesty. For those women that did have coarse hands from manual work, gloves were a way to hide their hands, especially when at church or other social gatherings, effectively allowing them to hide their station in life. Okay, so I'm fast forwarding through the article because most of you are probably hitting the back button or already hit the back button. So through the 1600s, more and more knitted gloves made from cotton and thread started to appear, and the cost began to be reduced so that more ordinary folk could afford more and more stylish glove designs. The 1800s saw satin. So that's what I think that material is. I don't think it's taffeta. It's probably satin. Became popular, and then on to the 1950s were nylon, where you can actually catch on fire. Yes, I'm a burn survivor, and I was wearing nylon, and it melted into liquid when I was burned, and spent a month in the burn unit. Okay, and vinyl and fake leather, and short gloves, gloves through history, short gloves, long gloves. Long gloves first started to appear as a fashion statement in the 1700s as short sleeves became fashionable in ladies' fashion. The longer glove still allowed those to partake in the short sleeve style, whilst still remaining a level of modesty as they could cover up the skin on their arm. Fingerless gloves. Fingerless gloves. The fingerless glove style was born out of practicality rather than fashion, as it enabled the wearer to still have full dexterous control of the fingers, which allowed them to keep their hands warm in the winter when stitching, for example. However, they also gave rich people an opportunity to display their expensive and flashy rings. These gloves were often made from expensive materials such as silk or velvet. Okay, well, this is colonial, but here's an example which I think is really amazing. And so you see this lady here during the 1700s with her mitts, and you can see the fingers are out, and she's holding a fan, but the tips of the fingers are out of the gloves. Really quite interesting. Okay, and here's Grandma Moses over here, and she's wearing fingerless gloves. You see the fingers out? Very interesting with these longer gloves. And it says, while certainly a fashion statement among the upper classes who adorn them with embroidery and pearls, these mitts were also functional. They also allowed for warmth while keeping their fingers free to move, while other were more like today's mittens but stopped short of the fingers. Interesting. Women wore them for sewing and other needlework, for tending to children, and for cooking. Upper class ladies would wear them the more mitten form, thus allowing their rings to show. Interesting. These are really cool. If you look at these are kid leather with lace, look, with a tassel and some kind of metallic thread. I think that's called scellation type of embroidery. and it's like metalish, metal like thread, and they had different lengths. And here we go. We had 16 button gloves. Now this was during the Victorian era. Somewhere it says until just before the Queen Victoria's reigns, don't mind me. Queen Victoria's reign, gloves were quite short. Fashions changed after the 1835 era as gloves started being worn halfway between the wrist and the elbow. Okay, so we got our 1841 gloves, in tune with that 1835 after time, and their length kept increasing throughout the century. Gloves were usually made out of white kid, but pale colors like pink and yellow were also worn. Interesting. Short kid gloves continued to be the fashion for daytime wear during the 1850s and early 1860s. And as you can see, as the era moved on, I believe the longer they got. Very interesting, up until about 1880. Now, believe it or not, the way a woman handled her gloves helped her to flirt. And so there's all different ways of holding your gloves to either repel male attraction or to actually attract males. And so holding the tips downward meant, I wish to be acquainted. Twirling around the fingers, be careful. We are, what is that? Oh, we are being watched. Interesting. So, let's check out another one. Right hand with naked thumb exposed. Kiss me. Oh, wow. That would have been fun, like doing sign language with gloves. Holding them loose in the left hand. I am satisfied. Dropping both of them. I love you. Ooh, interesting. Tapping the chin with the glove. I love another man. Putting them away. I am vexed. Don't know what that means. I thought it said sexed. Dropping one of them. Yes, yes, yes. That's so interesting. 1840s, fashion of sombre and wilting demureness. And I don't know what the hell that means, but here's some of the styles. And wow. And you notice that, like, you see the shorter sleeves. So she would wear the glove. The lady that had my, that I have her gloves would probably like wear gloves to cover this part up. Very interesting. Look at the hairstyles and the type of hats. Really, really cool. They didn't have hoops yet. So they wore layers and layers of crinolines under their skirt to poof them out. And the 1840s were a fruitful period for the Bronte sisters. I guess, I don't know if you read the Emily Bronte poems. 1847 in particular. It was the first decade of applicable photography. Yes, in the 1840s, photography was born, believe it or not. And here we go. Here's some styles of the 1840s. And again, we have the short sleeves. So, of course, a lady would have to wear gloves. Now, of course, she's not wearing gloves because she's taking a formal photograph. And I guess that was allowed. That's really interesting. So here's actual rare photographs of the 1840s of when photography was born, but not popular because only the rich people could afford it. Fashion in the 1840s represented a muted version of the romantic and flamboyant fashion of the 1830s. Some somber colors and simplicity were in vogue after a decade of exaggeration and flashy colors. The biggest changes in the silhouette occurred in two spheres. Firstly, natural waistline came into fashion after more than 40 years of high empire waists. And secondly, the volume of the sleeves had collapsed. I don't know what the hell that means. Oh, here we go. Here's more fashions. And I'm trying to find a hat like that, and I don't see it. And if you notice, a lot of the dresses came off the shoulders, some with short sleeves or medium length sleeves or elbow length sleeves. Really interesting. And here's actual dresses from the time frame. Really quite interesting. These one are long sleeves. So generally when a lady went to a ball or had formal, went out to a formal, oh, look at the hat. Okay. She would wear shorter sleeves. So, and you see, look, there's the gloves. And so the gloves would show a little flesh. They were allowed at certain functions or formal functions. And the fingers would come out. Look at that. That's the type of thing I needed. I needed just arms, like up to here, just to display these. But I guess I could not find them. They only, believe it or not, were selling two left arms and hands or two right arms and hands. Could not get a mannequin. Interesting. Just the arms. I didn't want the whole damn mannequin. And here's the front of the hat. Here's the side view of the hat. Very interesting. And this is from a museum. And it says woman hat, 1840 to 1860. I guess they don't know exactly when this was made. But this is a hat. You can see the spot where the bun would go in the back, and the sides of the hat went over the ears, just like that. And we have the really cool ribbon. And this was the winter of 1840, and you can see they had different kinds of hats. This one is interesting. It's like lace going down the back, covering the bun. Then we have a hat that covers over the ears. Then we have more lace or mantilla. It almost looks like a Spanish mantilla type of style. Then we have a bonnet that had a wide brim going around. And we had more wide brims. And then in the back part where the feather is, that's where the bun would be. And look, they're wearing short gloves because they have long sleeves. Interesting. Let's check this out. Really nice to study these old fabrics and fashions of the day. Okay, and these are fashion plates of July 1840. So let's blow it up and study it. And a woman with a top hat? That's actually interesting. Look at that. Lace going over the top of the head like a headband. Then we have a wide-brimmed bonnet. Look at the clothing. Shorter gloves with longer sleeves. So I was looking for these type of blue beads, and I found something that says vintage Biedermeier beadwork. What the hell is Biedermeier? Biedermeier, it sounds interesting. And you can see these really cool blue beads. And then I looked it up. One was the Biedermeier era, and between 1815 and 1848. Okay, so this is Biedermeier era. It's like so appropriate. The word beader, like beads, Biedermeier era, and interesting. And it was a 30-year period between 1815 and 1848 in European and Austrian history. 1815 saw the defeat of Napoleon and the reorganization of political Europe at the Vienna Congress. Interesting, not that you care. And so here's our set. $25 plus $9 shipping. And of course, tax was about $37 for this whole entire set. Not bad. This is just absolutely gorgeous. It's really cool. It was fun to actually do some research to find out more about these type of things, the type of textiles and clothing they had way back into time. And again, look at that. The crosses, we got the ivy leaves, we got the flowers, we got the forget-me-nots, which is a lovely flower. We have the beadwork hat. You're not going to see this every single day. Something that actually is 182 years that lasted, that's not in a museum. You just don't find it. This was a lucky score. I had purchased an antique filled, actually, 139-year-old perfume bottle filled. You saw my video, I'm sure, filled with perfume. Asked them if they had more antiques. They were elderly people getting rid of a lot of stuff. They said, yes, we have this, sent me a picture. I offered them $25. I don't know anything about textiles or fabrics. I figured $25 was fair, a fair offer for something I knew nothing about. And now we got this. This is quite cool, but guess where it has to go? Has to go, unfortunately, into a trunk. And the reasoning is because if it's left out, the materials will disintegrate, they will yellow, they will get really, really, really in bad condition. They'll stain, and you don't know what's going to happen to it. So I'm going to, now they have acid-free tissue paper stuffed inside of them. I'm going to place them in a cedar trunk. Thanks for watching. See you guys all soon. If you want to comment on this, maybe you might know more about this. Maybe you might actually collect antique beadwork. I don't know. Maybe you might know more about this bead style or beadwork, or anything about these blue beads. I want to know more about these blue beads. What kind of color is this? Is this Celeste blue? I don't know. I know in France they had a color called Celeste blue, but it's more like slightly like a turquoise, I guess. Let's spin this way. Very like turquoise in color. Really lovely. Are these made out of glass? And if so, what country made these type of beads? I know it's not Native American, that's for sure. Also, I want to know if you know, is this Scandinavian? Is it Norway? Is it Sweden? Is it, I don't know. You tell me. Thanks for watching. See you guys all soon. And sorry this was not one of my best productions. It was sort of boring. But I thought you guys would be interested in seeing 182-year-old clothing and textiles. So long. See you guys all soon. And on to the next item.